Hi, my name is Maya Pollard. I am a student at St. John's College Junior College, and today I am lucky enough to be a volunteer to speak to you about stereotypes and prejudices. Before we start, I just want to take a quick look into the dictionary to give you the actual meaning for both of these words. The dictionary meaning for prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. And for stereotype, it is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. So when you think about both stereotypes and prejudices, they kind of go hand in hand in the way where it's not really accurate information, however, it is still being treated as fact. Now, as sad as it is to say, we all unfortunately do have our own stereotypes ingrained into ourselves, or even our own prejudices. That's a hard word to say, isn't it? Like for example, a stereotype you might have heard is that women can't drive, which is awful and not true. I'd like to consider myself a very good driver, as well as my mother and aunt. However, these things kind of just spread around without us really controlling it. And unfortunately, someone who's probably never heard it before, they probably will just accept it as a fact. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right, even though it doesn't. Now, I would just like to explain the problem with prejudice and stereotyping. We are all people. People need to be seen as people, regardless of what they've done, of who they are. People are made of many different parts. When it comes to stereotyping, unfortunately, you only see a person as one thing, or even two things, not really more than three. And that's not really the way to effectively communicate or even interact with a person. People are made up of their past experiences, of their current morals, and of their ambitions of what they want to do. To just see this person and say, oh, okay, I see you as this, and because you're this, you'll never be anything more. That is a problem. Have you ever actually, say, been in a situation where you feel alone or lost, or even just bored? And of course, someone will come along and maybe they'll sit beside you. A lot of people find it hard to just start up conversations or even just, relate to people because of stereotypes and prejudices. I will never forget this time that I was waiting for the bus and there was an old woman that was standing right in front of me. I think this was the first form, if I'm not mistaken, and I was with my brother. Uh, there was this Muslim woman and she was running to catch her bus. If I'm not mistaken, it was a Kings Park bus. And it was about to pass. Luckily, the bus driver saw her and he was about to stop. So she's running. This mother is running, tired. Her hijab is almost loosening. She's fixing it. She's ensuring that, she doesn't, look odd or get, fall or anything like that. She's trying to keep her kids with her as well. I'll never forget the way this old woman right in front of me stepped in front of this mother and just started cursing at her. I was bewildered. The mother, you can imagine how bewildered she was. And all of a sudden she started screaming. The old woman, she started screaming about like heretic and like you need to believe in Jesus. And I was at a loss for words. Turns out this woman already had her prejudice against this Muslim woman about her religion. Stereotyping and prejudice breaks us apart as people. Like I mentioned earlier, it allows us to not be seen as a whole. It stops us from relating to each other. If it were me and I was that woman, I would have felt off for the entire day. I don't think I would be able to function properly. It's really heartbreaking as well that people unfortunately have to deal with the negative consequences of stereotyping when they themselves haven't done anything. Of course, this brings me back to the Good Samaritan. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with that story. A man is walking from Jerusalem and he's attacked by robbers. He's stripped of everything he owns and all his clothes, and he's left beaten and battered on the road. He's passed by a priest as well as someone of his fellow town, and they don't assist him. And it is a Samaritan that came with a donkey that actually helped the man up, took him to an inn, paid for his stay, and even offered to come back to pay for any other expenses that would need to be paid for. In this story is where we realize that it doesn't matter who you are or what you think is the main thing about a person. This person was a Samaritan, this person was going from Jerusalem. They don't agree. There was going to be huge problems if it was just two random people, or like one person from here, one person from here. It would have been a whole problem. But that's what people will notice about each other, that we are not just one thing. I am not just someone from Jerusalem. I am a person, and I'm a person who needs help. And that's what the Samaritan saw. That's how Jesus wants us to be. That is how we should be, regardless. People need to be seen as people. That's probably my favorite saying, I do believe. People need to be seen as people. Because that's really what we need to do. In the Bible, there is this verse. 1 Corinthians 1, this is verse 10 to verse 15. Appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and there will be no divisions among you, but that you perfectly united in mind and thought. My brothers and sisters, from the Chloe's house have informed me that there are quarrels among you. Where I mean is, one of you say, I follow Paul, another, I follow Apollos, another, I follow Cephas, still another, I follow Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Were you baptized in the name of Paul? I thank God I did not baptize any of you, except Crispus and Gaius, so no one can say you were baptized in my name. Yes, I also baptized the household of Stephanas. Beyond that, I don't remember if I baptized anyone else. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with wisdom and eloquence, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power. Here we are talking about prejudice. Prejudice because of difference in beliefs, difference in leaders. If people have problems because of this one aspect of you, how are we going to continue to work with each other? We are more than the sum of our parts. We are a whole. These parts make up who we are. I follow Christ, but I also paint. I also like to meet new people. I also like doing math. How will I relate to someone, say, in a club, if all they know me as is, oh, she follows Christ. Oh, she's a Christian. How am I going to relate to people outside of that? I will never forget that I have this friend. Another story, I apologize. But I do have this friend, and she's very, very Catholic. She's very Catholic. She does her practices every single day, and I don't want to get into too much description because I feel like if I describe, you'll know exactly who she is. But she is just very into her religion, and I adore her for it. And what I adore about her even more is that she makes it blatantly obvious that she is more than just her religion. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being very into your church. I think it's beautiful. But she makes it known that, yes, I am a Christian. I am very into my following. I really am. But I'm also me. You can speak to me about this show. You can speak to me about this work. You can speak to me because I am me. I am a person. And that is how we need to see each other. Even in the story I mentioned earlier about the old woman with the Muslim lady, that could have gotten so bad if she was more prejudiced than she already was. She could have hurt that woman. Prejudice and stereotypes can lead to violence or even worse. It's honestly scary to think about at times, which is why it's best that we all just see each other as who we are. Forget preconceived notions. I know it's hard. I did mention in the beginning, we all unfortunately do have them. But I did read something. I don't remember from where, but if I find it, I'll mention it to someone. But it basically just mentioned that you are not responsible for your first thought. When you see someone, when you're in a situation, you are not responsible for the first thought that you have. That is society. That is everything that's been hammered into you by people who you think you trust or people who have just negative thoughts about others. You are not responsible for your first thought. However, you are definitely responsible for your second and the actions you take after that. With that being said, I do want to thank you so much for allowing me to take up so much of your time. I genuinely do appreciate it. And just go on and be the best person you can. Try and see people as more than what you initially thought. It will definitely benefit you in the end because the only thing left to gain is knowledge, really, about a person, regardless of the stereotype. And who can deny knowledge? Thank you again.